Good afternoon and welcome to Chaos TV. It's now time for our Seetec Pluss hour, which has actually been extended today, as we continue to celebrate International Women's Day. We have some very inspirational women coming up who have been kind enough to share their experience with us, which we are extremely grateful for, and the hope their stories are going to empower you. It's hard to imagine a free world free of bias, stereotypes and discrimination. This is why supporting International Women's Day and their campaign theme, Break the Bias, is so important, as it really does highlight the inequalities faced by women all over the world. Now, we'd actually love to hear from you. Perhaps you know an inspiring woman who does great things. Please get in touch, let us know, send us a photo, send us a message, or WhatsApp us a voice note, and we'll be able to read those messages aloud. The WhatsApp number is 01872 228844, and all the extra details are running along the bottom of the screen. Before we go into our guests with Seetec, really honoured to have Muna Hamid, our volunteer at Chaos and a volunteer at Age UK. Hello.
Hello. Assalamu alaikum everybody. It's a International Women's Day today. We should be very positive, and we have reached up to 2022, and hopefully we are all looking forward to love each other, and as we say, love for all, hatred for none should be maintained amongst all the women and other genders, as we are talking about, that we are all human beings. Yes.
Walam salakum.
Well, thank you.
And from kind of International Women's Day is so important. If we think about only a couple years ago, it was 100 years since within the UK women got the right to vote, and actually it's been talked about that the pay parity, the expected pay difference within the UK, it's still going to take another 100 years to get there. What's been your journey?
My journey? Well, I have been always under my skin as being, very positive, but I love contact with the human being. Another person, is a communication I have to have with people. Any strangers, anybody, I love them, and I will see nothing should happens to them. And meantime, I join up after my retirement, as I was a nurse previous, and then when I retired, I still run a home for elderlies for a while in Cornwall, and now I am volunteering. I have gone past retirement, and I'm volunteering. I do volunteer work with the Age UK and with Cafe Chaos, and on top I'm under the umbrella of Cornwall Faith Forum, where we do the refugees, help out with the Syrian refugees. Now we also have we started off as a teamwork again as a volunteer for the Newquay refugee group, which is just slowly taking up, and there are very positive vibes there, and we are in it to help, and that should help us to carry on caring till the last day, I would say.
There's a lot of stigma, isn't there, as well, with the ideas of Muslim faith and empowering women within different countries. And I see UAE, for example, have really pushed forward with STEMs, with women within science. How do you think it's changing within the UK as well?
It is, because I find it in my community. I do find there are more girls well qualified than the boys. Unfortunately, this is taking a trend, and so I couldn't say much. That I'm happy that the girls are all forward and bright girls, and they are there to help the community out. And most of them I know are doctors and and other jobs they have which to do with public, and they do work with the government and we all, here to maintain the peace and harmony among the community plus extended families, ours, the other communities as well. We embrace them.
It's incredible. And talking about bias, do you see that there still is a bias within the workplace, within particular job roles, or within like if you look out, let's say, the top richest people in the world compared to everyone else are still men?
Just because I'm a positive woman, if there is a little bit anywhere, you get it. I mean, within your community, you get a bit of it as well. So it's part and parcel of life. Take it and live the life positively for others.
It's almost owning it, isn't it? It's like, I get that, but actually, I'm more than that. So I want to push myself through that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, if you need help, I will help you, and that sort of thing. Yeah.
And what's it like within, for example, you'll be volunteering with Age UK, and we're all getting older.
Yes.
How has that relationship and learning those relationships within Age UK with women getting older?
Yes, that is something quite exciting, because I have, I mustn't say it on air, but I've reached the age of retire. When I say retired, well-retired person, and when I see others in my shoes or older than me, it's a challenge to see. Some people are very bright and you get on all right, and there are some still have the stigma about, oh, you're a stranger, you are, sort of. But then they get to know you, they love you, that sort of thing. So it's like a link with the love of humankind, and you love them. If their hearing aid is not right, you go and fix it up. Oh, that makes, that's the day you feel good factor, because they're so happy, that sort of thing. And if they want 1 cup of tea or 2 cups or 3 cups, you do it for them, and with a smile. And they said, I will come here again, I said, oh, well done.
And again, that kind of relationship with chaos as well, because
yes,
you spend a lot of time in the food plazas as well, and it's almost a different dynamic, isn't it? So what's your experiences in the food plazas?
I like the public because, to see people in a situation, you never know when is your turn, you see. So you are there helping them out, and not as a negative but positive, and you welcome them as if they are your family and friends.
You say that, but on average, you will probably live a lot longer than I will.
Yeah. Say it again.
You'll probably live, not in terms, you'll probably live a lot longer than I will, because men typically.
Typically, but no, I wish upon you a longer life, because you're doing a good job here. Very caring job you are doing. So you are very good to the staff here, and Babs is always welcoming arms, So all your staff, they are very good in here, and I'm so happy to come and join. And I've been here for 2 years, I think, since the cafe has started.
Yeah.
I join in with the group. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us for International Women's Day, Muna.
Yeah.
Now I'm pleased to be joined by a familiar face on Chaos TV, the lovely Jackie Lesueur, a specialist in self-employment change coach from Plus. Hi, Jackie. How are you?
Hi, Nathan. I'm very well, thank you. I just have to say, I'm moved to tears by your previous speaker, and thank you for that lovely introduction. That's most kind of you. I just want to touch those words again that wonderful woman said: love for all, hatred for none. We are all human beings. Wow. Let us just take that into our hearts as we sit on the sofa with my wonderful colleague Gina, who used to work with me at Positive People and who is now Marketing Communications Coordinator for Seetec Pluss, and also Rosie and Joe. Rosie is currently a participant on the Positive People programme, working towards her self-employment, and Joe has recently left us, worked with us for a while, and is now trading in her own business. Rosie and Joe, thank you both very much. And Gina, it's a joy to share the International Women's Day sofa with you again. I know we were here last year, and thank you for inviting me on the Empowering Women journey back in the beginning. We're now heading into Series 5 or Series 6. I can't remember what it is now. So really, it's a real honour to be on the sofa with you all today for this, what is a very, very important day, Gina.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much for being here. The Empowering Women journey was absolutely amazing to be part of, and it gives me such joy that it's still continuing to support people and carry on. So yeah, welcome everybody. I will start with the first question, if that's okay, ladies. And I'll come to you first, Jo. I was just wondering if you could tell us a little bit about who you are and the support you've received from Plus and how that's empowered you as a woman.
Thank you. So my name's Jo Langdon, and I got referred to you guys through Devon Rape Crisis Team, and they kind of made me aware of your Empowering Women course, which was absolutely amazing. I can't really describe well enough how much I got from that. It was at a really difficult stage of my life, and the range of support was just phenomenal, from shutting down negative thoughts and how to change your thoughts for the better for your well-being, from the money maze, people coming in, and then obviously I met my business mentor Jackie, who's supported me for the last 7 months, enabling me to build my business, basically. Yeah.
And I would just add something to that, if I may. Thank you for that, Jo. That's really kind of you. Of course, we are here to enable and support people, but let's not forget the most important thing. Certainly a thing that I bang on to all of my participants, and that is we can provide support, advice, guidance, all sorts of things, but there's only one person in the world that can effect change for ourselves.
Yeah.
And that is?
And that's us. Yourself.
Exactly right. That's yourself. And Jo, the journey that you went on from when you first were referred to us to where you are now is a journey of, I can honestly say, metamorphosis and ecdysis. Ecdysis, where a shell is shed and you leave yourself in a completely vulnerable position in order to regrow and grow into the future. And, that is you that made that happen ultimately, and along the way breaking the bias every step of the way. I think I can confidently say that. Rosie, what about you?
I've come across Plus as I've heard they provided support for people with disabilities in finding work, and a couple of people had mentioned them through to me. So I contacted Plus, and then through them I was referred to you, Jackie, for a self-employment specialist. And yeah, we've been looking at, my interest is in sports for people with disabilities and accessibility to those sports. And I've been looking with Jackie at setting up a visually impaired running club, and writing a proposal for the council around that. And not just around that, but I'm quite passionate about, I've tried for quite a long time really, and I will say tried to be involved in sport with not that much success. I do run now, and I have a couple of running guides, which I'm really grateful for, but it's been hard to get involved in sport as a disabled person. And yeah, that's what Jackie from Plus has been helping me with, to get more involved and to break the bias around that, really.
That's exactly, thank you for sharing that, Rosie. That's exactly, sort of segues us into the second thing that we really want to discuss, isn't it? Which is about breaking the bias, and the bias that is experienced. I mean, that's the reason why we have the theme this year. And Rosie, I know that we've talked in great depth about the bias that you face in areas that perhaps sighted people wouldn't think. I mean, Rosie, if we were to openly say, can visually impaired people safely sail? What would you say to that?
Well, yeah, absolutely. You can, absolutely. And you can sail single-handedly as well.
Exactly.
But could I go out and get in a boat and sail, as part of a club tomorrow evening? Probably not. And it's the steps towards that, and it's the enablement and support that you need to be able to do that.
And that's exactly what you said to me, I think, Rosie, in one of our calls, where you said you like to go down the gym, but you need support in the gym, because as we all know, a gym is full of trip hazards and dangerous equipment and I don't know what. So the gym is there, but it's the access to the gym where you experience the barriers and the bias, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not just the being in the gym. I would either have to pay for a taxi to and from the gym, or I'd have to take a journey from my house to the gym, which can be quite tiring in itself, really. It's not just about being in the gym. It's about everything kind of around that, really.
That's exactly right. And what about, sorry to interrupt you there, Rosie, and what about for you, Jo, where, Rosie's biases that you've spoken about there, Rosie, are on a very, very practical level that prevent you from accessing the things that you would like to access, which is what you're so passionate about working with Plymouth City Council for now. What about you, Jo? Where have you experienced bias along your path?
I think the honest answer is, when have I not? I think as women, we experience bias all the time. And I've been thinking about this question a lot to try and come up with kind of like a one-word answer or a one-sentence answer for you guys. And for me, I suppose breaking the bias means making sure that there's no barriers to prevent women doing, or anyone doing, anything they want to do in this world. I mean, me personally, I am an aircraft mechanic by trade, or aircraft engineer. And I cannot tell you how many bias you have to kind of overcome there, from derogatory comments to, there's women toilets, but all of them are locked apart from one, which is down the other end of the hangar, because else the men use the women's loos. The uniforms are all cut for men and not cut for women's body shapes. So I guess breaking the bias, we've got to eliminate this stigma that's attached to women, but not just women, I suppose. I mean, obviously it's empowering women. International Women's Day here now, but just breaking the stigma of all roles would be amazing.
And I think that's a fair comment, Rosie, that applies to disabled people, regardless of how they identify. The bias is there. Yes, it's International Women's Day, and we're talking about the bias that we face as women, but I think you're right to mention there, Jo, that it's bias across the board that needs to be looked at. What would you have to say on from that, Gina?
Yeah, I think that's definitely right, isn't it? And every day we're taking small steps to get closer to breaking the bias, but it's a long journey. As the first guest said, it's another 100 years before we'll get equal pay and things like that. So I feel like the biggest step you can take is your personal journey, and the small steps you can make for yourself. We've talked a lot, I know, me and Jackie, and I talked to Claire earlier about coming up your comfort zone, and me talking with you now, this is out of my comfort zone. I can feel myself getting nervous, but that's part of empowering ourselves and embracing that journey. So yeah, we've covered this a little bit, but I was just wondering, based on the experiences of breaking the bias that you've had, what kind of things you might put into place and what kind of changes you might make to kind of move forward with that. Rosie, should we go to you first?
Yeah, that's when it comes to sport, and that, that's what I've been looking at with Jackie. I've put a lot of things in place personally. I have a personal trainer which I pay for every week. I've paid for one-to-one sessions in everything really: open water swimming, tennis, sailing, kayaking. But I no longer work. I used to work, and that's not really that available to me anymore. And what I would like to do is to make things like that available to everyone, really. A lot of people with disabilities don't work, are not able to work. So that's what I would like to become involved in, because these things, it shouldn't just be that because I can pay for these things, they're accessible to me. They should be as available to me as they are to any other able-bodied person.
And that sort of brings in that whole thing about financial bias there, because of course bias takes so many hats, doesn't it? Thank you for that, Rosie. What about you, Jo?
Yeah, so I guess for me it's more to do with touching on what Gina said, really, is your own personal journey, raising awareness, finding your voice, education, all of these areas. I think if you put energy and shine light on the dark sides of humanity, if you would like, that can only bring good. That's what I feel. So yeah, I mean, me personally, I'm hoping to open up a wellness centre for women who suffered sexual violence or any form of abuse, and connect in nature with that. But it's not going to be necessarily limited to women. That's what I personally will specialise in, but I do want it to be open to everyone who's experienced some form of trauma, or someone who just wants a day out to look at animals and connect with nature. And yeah, I feel like I'm losing the point now.
You're not you're absolutely not losing the point there, Jo, because you expressed something very eloquently about your general perspective on this, and then also something that you're doing very personally, that it is a big picture goal for you to have your wellness centre that is, as with Rosie, you both have an absolute passion. You're driven in many respects, and tell me if I'm wrong, but the fact that you have faced bias and that you do face bias ignites that fire of passion that drives you forward to try and break this bias that we're all talking about. Would that be a fair assumption, Jo?
Yeah, I think it definitely, there's definitely emotion there. There's definitely
I
anger.
have to say, like when you looked up just there, you had a real fire in your eyes. When you thought about that, it was very, very clear, Jo. And I, for one, know that does reside in you.
Oh yeah.
Because that is what has driven you to empower yourself to make the changes. And when I think of the first conversation that we had when we spoke, when you were on Empowering Women, to now.
Yeah, I mean, the change is phenomenal.
And that's because you are driven by that bias and by that passion. And certainly, Rosie, I know when we have our conversations, with both of you, I leave those conversations ever inspired. We might do these roles as coaches, but we are so privileged to work with people like yourselves that choose to take adversity, to take bias of whatever form it might take, and channel it, no matter how hard it might be to channel it and affect change. I mean, I've been banging the drum against mental health bias for years, and it can be exhausting, but you've both chosen to channel that bias and channel that passion to affect change. Would you say that's true, Rosie?
Definitely, yeah. And I think, it kind of brings it to the forefront, doesn't it? Because I've been writing a document with you for a few weeks now, and it's really made me realise what I've had to experience over the last few decades really, when it comes to bias, and mine is related to sport, and trying to be involved in that, and what I've had to come across, what I've done to to get over these things really. And also, just I think writing it just makes me realize how passionate I do feel about it, and how I do want things to change, because I feel as though I work quite hard to enable me to participate in sport, and the benefits of that around my mental health, and yet I still don't feel that it's as accessible to me as it is to a lot of other people, and I think there's probably a lot more people that just don't get to experience that at all, and that's what I feel passionate about, is enabling that for other people really.
I think you've touched on a very important point there, Rosie. Thank you for that to both of you. Is that not everybody feels confident enough to talk, feels in a position to talk, and shockingly, but truly, there are many people who feel they don't have a right to talk still. And that's why Gina and I were so thrilled that you both agreed to join us on this platform today, because International Women's Day is very personal to both Gina and my hearts for lots of different reasons. And before we finish in a couple of minutes, Rosie, you and I had a conversation around language and the bias attached to language, and we were talking about the word disability, weren't we? And how I have my prosthesis that no one can see, and you almost have no sight, but that's perhaps not evident unless people see you with your dog. And we spoke about how neither of us like the word disability, and yet sometimes we reach the conclusion that sometimes we have to use that word in our language, don't we? Because it's important that we use the language that the wider audience might attach to and listen to. And I think that's important for us all. Gina, is there anything you would like to add?
I just feel really honoured to be here today. It's reminding me a lot of empowering women, and I feel really blessed to have been part of that. And I think talking about kind of journeys and the journeys people have been on, that's something that I have the pleasure of doing when I do my marketing role, is sharing those journeys that people have been on, and to see what things people have overcome and the biases they faced, and how that's, like you say, driven them to succeed. I just feel that's really inspiring, and I'm sure that Rosie and Joe will inspire some of our viewers today. So thank you so much.
I have absolutely no doubt. And Joe, thank you for sharing your story as you did, that will be published in written and spoken form elsewhere. And certainly it was an absolute joy and pleasure to work with you. And Rosie, it's a joy and pleasure to be, accompanying you on your journey as well. And I think, we are living in 2022. And we are still talking about bias.
Crazy.
I know. We're still talking about bias. We're like Nathan said before we hand back to him, we're a century on from when women got the vote in this country. And we are still talking about bias, and particularly against the bias that women feel, or people that identify as female purely by virtue of their sex. And certainly, as far as I'm concerned, I really do feel it is about time that the bias is broken, frankly. So, Rosie and Joe, thank you so much for joining us. Gina, as ever, it's a joy. Nathan, we've reached our allotted time slot. I don't know if you're there. We're happy to carry on talking, but it is 35. He's there.
Hello.
Nathan, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie and Gina. We can hope you can stick around, and hopefully we can come back to you at the end of the show. Nathan isn't with us. We have Matthew, and actually, As we did say earlier, we'd love to hear from you today, and perhaps you know an inspiring woman who is doing great things. Please get in touch. Let us know. Send us a photo, a message, a WhatsApp, a voice note, and we'll read those messages out loud later in the show. The WhatsApp number is 01872 228844, and the details are running along the bottom of the screen. You are watching Chaos TV. It is International Women's Day. Our next guest is Angie, and she's been successfully started her own business for her home selling succulents. Jean and Sherman met up with her earlier this week to talk about her journey to becoming a self-employed woman.
I'd like to introduce the lovely Angie today, who's joining us to talk about her time with Jets and moving into self-employment, and just to give us a little bit of a story about her journey, where she is now. And we're here because it's International Women's Day, and we're talking about breaking the bias, which is the theme. So, hi Angie, how are you today?
Hi Gina.
Breaking the bias, which is the theme. So, thank you so much for joining me. I thought we'd just start by, if you could just tell me a little bit about where you've been and what's led you to where you are now, and just share your story with us. That would be wonderful.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so let me see, where shall I start? Well, I've been in care work for a number of years, 30 or more to say the least, and it's been an enjoyable 30 years, I must say. I've been in various different roles in care work, with working with the elderly, to working with people with Alzheimer's, dementia, and then progressed on to working with people with learning difficulties and autism, which I thoroughly enjoyed. My last job was for 15 years, and my role was a team leader, but we were also on the shop floor as well, working with the individuals. And as the years were going on, I was finding it a lot more challenging, to say the least. Long hours, double, triple shifts, lot of injuries from work, because the clients could be very challenging. And so I think it was just one day I said, I think a change is due. And I really didn't know what to do. And I did think about going into a different field of care work again. And I thought, no, actually, I need a change. I really felt I needed a change. So I ummed and ahed what I was going to do for a little while, and then some members of the family said, well, why don't you go self-employed? I said, oh God, self-employed, what would I do? And they go, well, your plants, of course, because I'm very much into succulent plants, which are quite different from normal plants. And I thought about it because it's a huge hobby of mine, and I had quite a bit of stock already. And so I thought, I'm going to give it a go. And then it was my daughter-in-law that introduced me to Outset Cornwall, that would send me on it was done through Zoom, a business course, really, I was kind of chucked right in the deep end, because it was very intense over a short period of time, like 6 months. So I learned quite a lot quite quickly. And at the end of it, I thought, yeah, I feel ready that I can do this. So alongside me, as I'd finished with Outset Cornwall. Halfway through the middle, I'd also been introduced to the JETS program, and they have been quite invaluable to me, really. They've helped me so much through with stock for my business, with the likes of pots and compost and arts and crafts, because I was going into the wedding, doing wedding bouquets and little wedding favours. So they've helped me out tremendously. I had the most amazing work coach called Toby. He was brilliant. There were days when I might have been like, can I really do this? Am I going to be good enough to do this? Have I got the drive to keep going? And he was a huge help, huge big support, giving me ideas and just keeping me uplifted when we had our phone calls. He also got me onto Google with my business, which I was really pleased about, because I'm not very techy. So that was a big, huge help. So where I am now, I have a little shop that I've got up and running in my back garden. It's a cabin that's been converted into a little shop. I have all my stock out there. And I would just really, if somebody said to me 5 years ago, you're going to have your own business one day, I would thought, no, that would never happen. I just thought, no, it felt too much out of reach. But I feel that if you really want something in life, you can get it. You just have to put the work into it. And as the months have been going on, I have become quite confident and empowered by what I have done, even though there are days, like I say, it's a roller coaster of emotions, going, oh, this has happened, that's put me right back, oh, I don't know if I can be bothered anymore. But you kind of get up the next day and you surge forward again. So I feel if I can do it, anybody out there can do it.
Oh, I think that's really brilliant message, Angie, and really empowering. And it can't be easy to be self-employed, but like you say, you just take it each day as it comes, and you've had some good support to help you. But it sounds, really inspiring that you've made that leap. I just wondered what you feel break the bias, which is the message of International Women's Day, means to you.
Yeah. When I first heard that phrase, it kind of conjured up for me about women being empowered and breaking the norm. And actually, you can get out there and do it. And the help is there to do it as well. And I think once you've made that first step of that journey, more things come in. Sometimes it's too far ahead to look into the future, what could be. But what I've learned is that it's like taking baby steps. And each time you're moving forward, you're learning something else. And so it can be done. And because I think women's roles, they're difficult enough, at the best of times, with trying to bring up a family as well. And I just think there's huge opportunities for women going self-employed and having the freedom to be able to be their own boss, make their own decisions, and with that become develops lots more confidence within oneself.
Definitely, yeah. I think it can often be, well, we all, as women, we can often be the caregivers, and sometimes we need to take a step back and think about our own well-being and the things we want to achieve as individuals as well. So yeah, I think your story shows that really, and just the empowerment that self-employment can bring.
Yeah,
So
and it can be. That's okay. I was going to say it can be quite lonely at times as well. But I think that you'll get past that when you start reaping your rewards from it. You'll start to realise, actually, when I look back now, I think, oh gosh, if only I knew back then what I know now. For even what I've learned this past year with becoming self-employed, I just think it might help surge women on a little bit more, and the freedom that they can get. And there's also the chance of earning potentially more than they would with an employer, which is most important.
Yeah, definitely. Financial freedom is a good one, isn't it? And maybe the more, as we progress, and the more women choose self-employment, maybe those communities will build a little bit, and there'll be more of a sharing, people kind of sharing, good practice and what works for them. And it's just good to know that it's an option, and that it's something that people can look into.
Yeah, definitely. I would suggest that people go for it. I don't think they'd look back.
Well, you certainly won't be looking back, and I'm sure your business will be a huge success. Did you want to give us the name, Angie, and a little bit about how people can get in touch?
So the name of my new business is Pure Love Succulents, and I can be found on Google. I am attempting to make up my own website. Like I said, I'm not very techy, but I'm really challenging myself, and I'm halfway through finishing my website, and I can hold my hand up and say I've done it all myself. And I think with just time and effort, anything can be done. So here's to the future, really. And as soon as I get my website up and running, I'll be hopefully expanding a little bit more than I am now.
I love that, and it's never too late to learn new things. We're all learning, aren't we? So yeah, best of luck with that, Angie.
Thank you, Gina.
And thank you so much for your time today. Thank you. It's good
You're
to speak
welcome.
with you.
Thank you. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You are watching Chaos TV. It is International Women's Day. Thank you so much, Angie and Gina. Now, you remember you can get in touch with us today. We're celebrating International Women's Day, breaking the bias. Tell us about your inspiring women you know. You can get in touch on 01872 228844 on WhatsApp. Now we're going to go to one of our inspiring women, two very inspiring sisters who followed in their family's footsteps of a very male-dominated industry, construction. Nicole and Natalie Bell are helping the next generation of construction workers with their training school, and Beth O'Leary was able to catch up with Natalie earlier to ask about her and her sister's experience within the biases in that industry.
Hello, thanks for joining us today. My name's Beth. I work in marketing for Seetec Pluss, and I'm really pleased to be joined by Natalie Bell from Axel, who's joining us today to talk about International Women's Day and what breaking a bias means to them. So thank you so much for joining us, Natalie.
Thank you for the invitation.
No worries. So I wanted to first of all just talk to you about Axel and what you do, and just find out a little bit about who you are, and how you're working with Seetec Pluss to kind of inspire the next generation.
Yeah, okay. So Excel, we are the UK's first industry-led co-funded construction school, and we're based in the Forest of Dean in Gloucestershire. We're a bit different in terms of an education facility, because we're actually owned and run by two females. So Excel was actually set up, and the managing director is my sister Nicola, and I'm the growth and partnership director. A bit about Excel. So where did it come from? We are a third generation construction company, KW Bell Group, and based sort of in the Midlands and the Southwest and South Wales. And my sister has been in the family construction firm for about 10 years. I came from construction. I came from a tier 1 construction company, Kier. So have worked in construction about 8 years myself. And she was actually succession planning for the business about 5 years ago, and realised we're not getting the people through the door that we need. 25% of our workforce would be retired in the next 5 to 10 years, and we didn't have enough people to service our order book. So not only that, what we were finding is that people coming out of the local colleges and things, they weren't trained properly, they weren't site ready, they weren't the standard that we needed to get, to have them on site. So what Nikki did was she developed her own bespoke groundworks program 4 years ago, and had remote sites, and brought through 23 apprentices, 17 of which actually graduated. And for apprenticeships in construction, that's a pretty good retention rate, to be honest. So she was doing the business case and sorting that out. So post-COVID, then the Getting Building Fund was actually brought out, and this was for infrastructure projects to get the economy running after COVID. And construction never really stopped during COVID, to be honest. It actually got busier. So we were invited to submit a business plan for Excel to the local enterprise partnership. So we'd done that within 3 weeks. Within 8 weeks, we were awarded 1.96 million from the local LEP, and Excel was born. So it's a £3 million build. So we were given 2 million by the LEP, and 1 million from our family construction company. And Excel is 980 square metres of learning space, everything to do with construction. We started on site last January 2021. The build was finished in December 2021, and we opened the doors 2 months ago in January.
Oh, amazing. And how's it going? How are you finding it?
It's going really, really well. So we have two strings to our bow, really. So we have our apprenticeships, so bringing people into the industry, but also we've developed our own bespoke skill steps program. And for us, that's about upskilling people already in the industry. So we have a mixture at the moment. Our apprentices don't start until the end of March. But we currently have learners in for all of our skill steps, and also cohorts in with the Department of Work and Pensions as well.
Fantastic, amazing. And how is it that you are, the partnership that you have with us at Seetec Pluss, how has that helped your business, and how are you helping our participants to venture into construction and inspiring that next generation of females to work in construction as well?
I think for us it's about imparting knowledge, and it's about giving information. So we met with Seetec Pluss when it was at least about a year ago. So when Excel was just being built, and we met with Mick and Sophie, and we were just inspired by what you do, and it aligned with the values of what we're trying to do at Excel, and bring people back into work, inspire them, give them aspiration. And in construction, that is available. There are so many opportunities, there are so many career paths and career routes, but people don't know about them. And for us, because we're not governed by education or curriculum or anything, we can tailor our training and our education to what the learners want. And I think that's why we're going to work really, really well with Seetec Pluss, is because tell us what you want and we'll deliver it, and tell us what your participants need and we can deliver that. And it's about getting people back into work, getting people to have a change of career if they like. And for us, it's not only bringing people into construction, which is what we need, but giving those people a different career route and giving them that aspiration. And for us, that's really important. The same with females. I think it's made a lot of difference even at the beginning that this construction school is led and owned and led by women, because I think it will make the industry more accessible. And we know what barriers that we've come across being women in the industry, and I think we're coming at it from a different angle as what women need. With Seetec Pluss, we're looking to run female-only cohorts, because sometimes they don't want to be in cohorts with males. It's not conducive to their learning, and if that encourages them to come into construction and change career path, then we'll do it. If that gives them the impetus to explore construction as a career, then we'll do it.
Totally, and it's a fantastic partnership. And you touched on there on my next point of, so our conversation is all about International Women's Day today, and the theme this year was breaking the bias. So often that bias is what can really kind of restrict women in making their own footprint and progressing in their career if they're led by stereotypes and bias, which sometimes can hold them back or kind of stop them moving forward. So what does breaking that bias mean to you? What does that mean for you guys?
I think breaking the bias for us means challenging preconceived ideas about what women should be, what women should do. We've been in construction and in leadership roles for a couple of years now, but we go to a lot of events where it's still middle-aged white males at the top, and even though they talk about inclusion and diversity is high on the agenda, we don't see enough being done. It's talked about a lot, but in terms of actual action, we don't see enough, and it's still a case of the men at the top and women in more of the HR admin roles, and break the bias for us. It's not just about what's shown outwardly. It's actually that subconscious bias as well. Well, women shouldn't be in construction. They shouldn't be in those male-dominated environments. And we've got to do this even from school age, because we still, even though again we are banging the drum of female equality, we don't see that translating into the workplace, and not nearly quick enough. We can't still be in this position in 20 years, so we have to challenge that. Break the bias is challenging those preconceived ideas, challenging those perceptions, and this needs to start right at school age, right when the girls are 4, 5, 6, and Nicola and I both have 2 daughters each, and they're aged between 10 and 16, but again they see their mums in leadership roles in construction, but still they've got the idea that we're in a male-dominated environment, but nobody's outwardly said that, but it's just that subconscious bias that's there even from a very early age. And I think in order to change that outlook, we need to change the perception earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. And as 2 women in construction, what examples of stereotyping and kind of biased behaviour have you both experienced?
It's been both. Being in this position has presented challenges, but also has been a blessing. In terms of, because it's very different being 2 women at the helm of a construction school. It's got us that exposure, it's got us that publicity, it's been welcomed by industry, which has been fantastic. Notwithstanding that, we've also had our challenges. We've come up against it is a minority, but it is that you have to prove yourself over and above anyone else, that you know what you're talking about, and maybe that's personal insecurities of being a woman, but you do come across some areas and some people who still have those ideas in their head. We actually put a post out on LinkedIn about a month or so ago, and it was a TikTok video of my sister, me, and our head of sales, and we were in our dresses and we clipped our fingers and we were in our rigger boots and hard hat, and it went viral on LinkedIn and had over 1.5 million views and over 35,000 likes and 15,000 comments. But it was interesting that there actually was, there was quite a bit of trolling and what are women doing on site? What are women doing in rigging? And so there is that faction still out there, and it's awful to think of in this day and age. But then, on the opposite side, we've had such support for the position we're in. But what I'm really saying is this shouldn't be something that's out of the norm.
No.
And this isn't something that should be, oh wow, this is really different. This should be the norm. We shouldn't still be making a big song and dance about us being in a construction company. But times haven't really changed that much.
No, and that's the thing, is it is still a very, when people say, it's 2 women working in construction, and I guess, like you said, it's helped you in your careers because it has made you stand out from the crowd. But then it has to come to a point where, okay, when we're not an act, we're not doing this to prove a point. We're doing this because it's our job and we enjoy it, and it should, like you said, it should be the norm going forward, totally. And it's great that you're inspiring your children to have that mindset, and hopefully when they get to a point where they can kind of venture into their careers, they don't experience as much as much kind of restriction and setback as what's previous. So you touched on it earlier about your kind of women only cohort. So tell us more about what you're doing to, kind of break the bias further and really kind of make that mark in terms of making this the norm for women going forward.
So at Excel, it's not, with our training and our education programs, we've made it so it's not just giving qualifications, it's building the whole person. So we don't just train and so they get their cards to get on site. We give lessons in leadership and personal development and leadership and mental health and well-being and quality and sustainability. And so it's not just giving that boost on the employment ladder. It's actually building them. It's making them believe that they can do it, that they are in the right place, that they can go out on site and do what they want to do. And it's the same. Our training is the same whether it's for males or females. But I think especially for females, they have to feel comfortable that when they go on site that they will be accepted, when they go on site they will be treated properly. And that's what we're basically the linchpin between education and industry. So we have over 30 employer partners who have signed up to our Constructing Futures pledge, and they're guaranteed employment. They're guaranteed that the employers will help them in their growth and their personal development. And I think that's a really key thing for getting more females into the industry. They need to know that they're going to be supported and that they're going to. It may take them longer to integrate, but they need support to be able to do that. It is still a case where on site it is predominantly male. So the females coming in, yes, they will absolutely flourish, but they need support to be able to do that. And I think with our female only cohorts, it's just, especially with our introduction to construction, they have to feel safe. They have to be in a safe environment and an environment where it's conducive for them to learn. So if it's 3 weeks of just them in a group of like-minded females, just exploring whether construction is for them, then so be it. We will do whatever is needed to encourage the next generation of females into construction. And I'm sure there'll be learning curves on the way and bumps in the road. But the exciting thing about working with Seetec Pluss is that we can, we can tailor it, we can evolve it, we can, what do your participants want? What do the learners want? And let's tailor it to that. Let's just encourage more women in. How we do that, I'm sure it will be a moving feast. But let's start here and then let's do it consistently, and let's do it in a sustained way where we get those women through the door.
Yeah, totally. Natalie, thank you so much for joining us today. And I think you've definitely inspired a lot of women who are watching today. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Great to see Natalie there, and thank you, Beth, for that interview. It is International Women's Day. You are watching Chaos TV. If you haven't already, please do get in touch. We are celebrating International Women's Day. Tell us about an inspiring woman you know. You can get in touch on 01872 228844 through WhatsApp. Now, as we've just heard, women do face challenges within the workplace, things such as equal pay and fewer opportunities. But women are also facing bias within the education system. Our next guest, Anna, originally from Brazil, met with Gina this week to talk about the bias and the challenges she has had to overcome in the UK. Anna was determined to get to where she wanted and is now a qualified social worker. Let's see what they have to say.
Hi everyone, welcome to another chat with a wonderful lady for International Women's Day and our Break the Bias Chaos TV feature. I'm joined by the lovely Anna today. Hi Anna.
Hi Gina, how are you?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you, and really looking forward to our chat today. So I'm just going to start asking you to sort of say a little bit about who you are, what your background is, and how you arrived where you are today.
My name is Anna Richards. I am originally from Brazil. I moved to UK in 2005, originally to learn English, to be able to enroll a post-graduation course, and the plan was to return to Brazil. Things do not go always according to plan. So 17 years on and I'm still here. I did not go back to Brazil. So now I am living UK. I have my family here as well. So it's been a long journey, especially as a Black, non-British woman in UK, non-English speaker to start with. It has been a very challenging, steep learning curve for me all these years, because I came on a student visa, and at that time there was several requirements for you to retain your visa to be allowed to be in the country legally. So I had to attend English courses on a daily basis, 3 hours every day, and work. There were limitations to work. You couldn't work full time, never only in school holidays. So finances were tight, and so it was a very challenging time to make that balance. And but I used to live in London. Lived in London for 5 years, which I really enjoyed. But when I decided to start my family, I moved to Devon. And at the time, my ex-husband was in the forces. And as I said to you, Gina, that's how I came in contact with Pluss, because when he left the forces, Pluss was very supportive of him. And I was impressed, actually, with the level of support they used to offer in terms of even going to the interview with him, supporting him with the questions. Absolutely impressive support he got at that time. I had my kids in Devon, 2 kids. Unfortunately, at the time I had some domestic situations with my ex-husband, and the marriage collapsed. So from then, again, more challenges in terms of being a non-British citizen at the time. To have support with 2 kids on my own was beyond challenging, possibly the most difficult time. But I was very pleased to be able, at the time, to grab the opportunities that came to me, such as doing some learning. I realized I want to progress. So I approached organizations that would give you advice about career. And I remember them saying that doesn't matter if I had a degree in Brazil, in order to be considered in UK, I should have GCSE, A level, and that's what I did while on my maternity leave. And those qualifications really changed my professional prospect, because from there, and with my IELTS that I gained when I was doing my English, put me in a very good position to apply for jobs in this country, and that's how I started, especially in Devon. I started in the care sector as a carer, but as I said, I needed more challenge. So when I approached these organizations, and they kind of guided me, and you need to do this, you need to achieve that, and then you're in a position to apply for that sort of job. And I did, and with that support, I applied for a job as a care manager, which I was successful. And from there, I started my career in the local authority. I applied for my social work degree, subsidized, funded by my employer. I graduated as a social worker. So now I'm a qualified social worker with Social Work England, and I just finished my post-graduation. So that's where I am now. So if you talk about bias, there have been several along the 17 years, from everything from gender, from nationality, from race, from educational background, from economic background, all sort of bias, which I had to break to be here.
Amazing. Wow, it's quite a journey, and you've obviously worked really, really hard and have a lot of resilience, and it's really inspiring to hear. And well, you've just kind of led me into the next question perfectly, which was, what does break the bias mean to you?
Well, I think it's very important for all of us to bear in mind that we all have bias, and we all have to break them. But depends who you are, especially depending on your identity, those bias are certainly more evident, I would say. And as in my case, it started with there is an assumption, I think there is in UK, that if the education background that somebody has isn't from UK, well, is it actually any worth it? So that in itself is a massive bias and barrier that you have to overcome, because you're always coming from behind, having to prove something, having to prove that, yes, I wasn't educated in UK, but does not matter. Doesn't mean, that I did not have a good, solid education, if that's what you have, because not all of us had the privilege to be educated, to have access to education. So especially in Brazil, you do have people who do not have access to education. So the bias are, with me, with my identity being a woman, a black woman, a black Brazilian woman, there was bias about my when I was a carer, where people again tend to make assumptions that perhaps you can't go for more challenging opportunities. So I think what breaks the bias comes a lot from within. I cannot speak for anybody else, but I can speak from how did I feel I broke the bias. And actually, I don't think necessarily I broke the bias. How can I say? I went around it. The bias are there, but I got to the point that, well, like if you go to an interview process and it is scored, and you can challenge those scores, and if you get the job, how they're gonna say whatever they think about you, you got it. So I don't think the bias gone, but I think I went around them, and now I'm in a position as a social worker to really challenge those bias from small to big, not only with myself, because as a social worker I'm expected to reflect on the way I practice, the way I work with people, and I'm always reflecting on my own bias, because the thought of me making someone going through what I went through because of my own bias is devastating for me. I really do not want to do that, because it's hard on people. Many times I doubted myself. Many times I thought I was the problem. But I have to say, this journey showed me that I'm extremely proud, not of what I achieved, but who I am. Because if I wasn't who I am, I don't know, if I haven't stuck to who I am, I wouldn't be here.
That's really powerful. I think that's something I'll take away. Stick to who you are.
That's what I try to tell my kids.
Good message.
That's what I try to tell my kids. If you're comfortable with who you are, eventually everything falls to place. Because if I have compromised who I am, to get things, and when I didn't get, not only I wouldn't have got, I would also lost myself in the process. And one thing I'm glad about is I haven't lost myself in this process, despite the challenges and the bias that I face because of my identity. I haven't lost myself. I can look back and say, wow, I can certainly hold my head high.
Amazing. That's fantastic. And speaking of challenges and going around the bias, are you working on any projects, or is there anything you'd like to share where you feel you've really challenged those biases or worked through them or got around them, as you said?
Yes, because I feel that the fact that I came from the very bottom in terms of the very bottom in my idea, because I'm very aware of my own privileges, to be honest, even though as a black woman I do have some privileges. Crossing the ocean to come to another country, you know what I mean, having the opportunity to study in that country, find a job, build on and progress in your career in the economic pyramid, that's a privilege in itself. So I'm totally aware of that. But from coming from where I used to be to where I am now, at the time I always challenge, because I have a lived experience of what the bias can do to somebody's self-esteem, confidence, identity, acceptance, you name it. So I was very keen on, if I can avoid anybody else to feel that way, I will. But obviously, when I was a carer, although an appreciated job and very important job, by the way, I didn't have the job security that I feel I have now. So I felt, to be very honest with you, that when I graduated as a social worker, I felt like someone gave me a cape and I became a even more superwoman. Like now, there's no hold back for me anymore. Now I'm needed. So whatever I say, whatever challenge, I doubt it I'll be unemployed as a social worker in UK after pandemic. So I can definitely go for it. And that's exactly what I did. I graduated in October 2020. I barely had my final results. I put my name down to become a governor in one of my children's school, because I thought some of those bias were very, very present in the school's leaders, especially the head teachers. So I thought I think I can contribute for some positive transformative change in the educational context, which would directly impact on my daughter as well as other children. I volunteered for Devon and Cornwall Community Scrutiny Panel to rate. There is a volunteer role. Anyone can volunteer if they want to, but it's basically to rate police actions in stop and search and use of force. So it's been a great learning curve, and I feel extremely empowered to be able to contribute in that professional environment. And also because unfortunately, as we all might know, the statistics are not great, where people who are from a particular ethnic group are 17, I believe, nationally, 17 times more likely to be stopped by the police but are white British. So all those things motivated me to enroll and try to make a change. And finally, in my employer, February 2021, it started a mentoring program, which is program where they call reverse mentoring. So somebody like me, a social worker, will mentor a director. And so I have been paired with the organization's CEO, and it has been a very empowering journey for me, because from there, he has written anti-racist statements, and he was very open to say that that's the learning he gained from those mentoring sessions that gave him the confidence to write a formal anti-racist statement for the whole organization. So I was very pleased. From there, he also invited me to do an organizational video to promote the program, where he does refer to how much impact the mentoring session has had on him personally and professionally. So the whole organization is really looking at how they support people from an ethnically diverse background, in diverse backgrounds in general as well. So it's been very empowering to me. I feel heard. I feel like actually what I'm saying is doing something. What I'm saying is going somewhere. And that feeling is unique.
That is priceless, isn't it? And invaluable to actually to be heard is a massive thing for anyone, but in particular for women. And I think your journey is really empowering, and I'm sure it will inspire people who are watching today. And I love that you're governor at your school, so you're passing that on to the next generation, and just being able to have these conversations is a really powerful step forward. So thank you so much for your time. Before you go, I just wanted to ask if you had any top tips or things that you would like might help other women to feel empowered, things they can do.
I would like to say that knowledge is power, and knowledge doesn't come necessarily, as I said, I'm very aware of my privilege to have had university education in Brazil, in here, but knowledge doesn't come necessarily only from there, come from other sources as well. So I think the main thing is, if you can, and if you have, which I believe we all have inside us, sometimes a bit hidden with the problems, with the difficulties, with the issues, but we all have there inside things that we want to achieve, places we want to go. So I think it's important to become informed, get that knowledge. What do you want? Do you want to change career? Okay, what do you need? Which organizations could help? Because I have to say, all these charities, I said, Plus at the time with my ex-husband, I think National Career Services or Southwest Career, all these were for free at my time, or at the time I started looking, and they helped him certainly and me so much. And that's what I'm saying, that knowledge opened doors for me. They will share things with you that you didn't know. In my case, it was career, but for somebody else might be something else. And I think I use a lot the Citizen Advice Bureau as well. I do appreciate that many things are shutting down, but there are lots of charities which hold exceptional knowledge in terms of, and that knowledge might sit in on what we want to achieve. And I think that's very important, because because of the bias, we are all very surrounded by so many difficulties that sometimes we don't even have time to look up. And I felt when I approached those organizations, they helped me not only to look up, but to look around. I'm like, oh, that's a new world, So that was a game changer for me, was a turning point. I'm like, oh, hold on a minute, I can do it. Because that knowledge they shared with me allowed me to identify, actually, I can go as far as I want to go. So I would say that knowledge is power. And again, if you have that knowledge, you are able to make those informed decisions that are important to you. Because as I said, for me it was career. For somebody else might be mental health. For somebody else might be other things. So we are all different, but that knowledge, knowing what is possible, I think is crucial.
100% agree with you. And the help is out there. People need to reach out and they'll find it. So yeah, I think that's a really good place to leave it. People reach out, find the help, it's out there, look up and look around, and you'll see that everybody is there to help, and we're all trying to feel more empowered and support each other. So yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Anna. I've really enjoyed hearing your journey, and I hope you'll come back and join us again.
No, thank you, Gina, for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. I do wish everybody an amazing International Women's Day. We are absolutely amazing. We are great.
Yeah,
we do so much. We achieve so much. We compact so much. We multitask so much. We are brilliant.
Here's to all the women in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
We are back with Chaos TV. It is International Women's Day. Listening to those words, it's a lot to take in. We're actually joined with Claire as well, Seetec Marketing. Hello. How have you found today?
It's been really great, hasn't it? We've seen, we just want to thank all the women that have taken part in our feature today, because they've been really brave to tell us their stories. It's been really inspiring, and I hope it's been really motivating for everybody that's watching. There's still a lot of work to do, as we've heard. Some of our guests are working in like really male-dominated sort of industries, and they've sort of challenged that, and they've broken some barriers, really. So yeah, it's been brilliant, and as we say, we just got to keep the pressure on, keep fighting. We've got to, things like equality of pay and pension gaps, that sort of thing. It's really important. So it's been great, and thanks for everyone for taking part today.
Thank you, Claire. Yeah. We're actually joined by Jackie and Gina. Hello.
Hiya. Apologies for calling you the wrong name earlier, Matthew.
No. To be honest, I'll take anything. And my husband, well, that sounds odd. My husband's Nathaniel, so it's really endearing as well. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, there you go. So I was calling you by your husband's name. That's something at least. When Gina, Claire, and I were looking for a video clip to play, we found the one that you've just played, and Gina, I'm sure, will attest to the fact that we were both very moved by watching. It's not just watching that, it's hearing it, it's feeling it. And to pick out some things that were said, why can we not be accepted as us? We have to be the voice of reason and the action for change. And I think that's what we've seen in this great program that Claire and Gina, you've put together. And again, I echo your thoughts, Claire, on thanking everybody that's come on today, because as we touched off in our segment, sometimes it's not easy to share your story. Sometimes it's not easy to speak out because you've experienced the bias and you fear the backlash that you can be exposed to. And that's why I think, personally, for me, International Women's Day is such a phenomenal platform to bring to the fore things that, even in this country, are still not widely spoken about. What do you think, Gina?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I've been really touched by everybody's stories, and both our segment and the stories of Angie and Anna. Also, I think I'd like to just celebrate this moment and say, despite the challenges that lay ahead, I feel a sense of positivity and inspiration, and I just want to celebrate all women and everyone that is sharing their story today and beyond.
I think isn't that a great word, that we, there is so much challenge in the world at the moment. There always is, and particularly at the moment on both a national and a global scale. And the fight that women face globally is a real one. It has been a real one for a very long time. I'm very fortunate to have lived in Africa and Asia for nearly 30 years and worked in this arena, either directly or indirectly, for a long time. And voices of women around the world have been coming together through this forum and others for a very, very long time. And we are surrounded on this planet in our lives by very, very powerful women who also have the strength to display and honour their vulnerability. And that's extremely difficult to do as a woman, even in the 21st century. So I really like that. What I would like to close on, for me personally, and I do struggle with this, I'll be honest, but it is the symbol for this year, is I would say to everybody out there who is listening, the time is done for being an armchair evangelist, to use the words that were in that piece. Why can we not be accepted as us? we have to be the voice of reason and the action for change. What are you doing to break the bias? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Break
Jackie.
the bias.
If trying to think of what are those actionable changes that we can all do as an ally or as a person that wants to directly change and challenge. What would we do? What's the simplest things that we can actively do?
The simplest thing?
Yeah.
The simplest thing is to remember, like one of the earlier guests said, we are all human beings. No matter the colour of our skin, the faith that we follow, the culture that we hold our heritage in, no matter what, if you were to take out all of our hearts and lay them side by side, apart from disease, which would obviously make them look different, they would all look the same. The colour of our blood is all the same, no matter the colour of our skin. And the easiest, you asked for the easiest thing that we can do. It really is as simple as respecting difference and respecting that we may be all of the same animal species, but we are all human, and we don't have to all agree with one another at all. The world would probably be an exceptionally boring place if we did. But I, for one, having lived in a lot of conflict zones, certainly, truly and honestly, passionately believe with all my heart that if we could just respect and honour difference and honour our humanity, as your earlier guest said, that's something that we can all do, all of us. And we need to remember that our every thought, deed and word makes a difference. And you can hear, I'm getting very emotional because I've spoken on this platform globally many, many times. To me, that is the simplest thing that lies in all of our gift to do. We all have the ability to do that. But as we said in our segment, you know, the journey, the great Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu said, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. You know, all change that is effected in the world starts with the change that we choose to make within and of ourselves for ourselves. And it's a ripple effect. And I really do believe it is as simple and as enormously challenging as that.
What would you say is the impact of the language that we use when we talk about that?
Language is everything. And we are blessed in the English language with such a richness of language. Even though we actually use very little, we have an enormously rich language. Other languages in the world are very, very limited in the way that you can express yourselves. We're not. And I think, I'm a dinosaur. I'm 61 years young. I started and ran a business in Thailand before the internet, before mobile phones, before anything. Yes, we were still using telex machines and making tapes and running them through at 2 o'clock in the morning. And people that I've taught IT to go, what, telex machines? You know, even the fax machine is a thing of the past. But we live in an era of rapid communication and where response times are very, very short. And that can lead to very, very quick responses. And sometimes responses, I'm just a firm believer that no matter how we're communicating, whether it's through one of the many message apps that we have, whether it's through broadcast media or whatever, words matter. Words really matter. You know, people talk about bombs and this, that and the other. What's that old thing? Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That was a thing that was said when I was at school. You're quite right, Matthew. It's absolutely wrong, because words can be as damaging as any other weapon. And to me, they are important. And it is through our language, through our body language, our spoken word, our written word, that we communicate and that we show care and thought for other people.
Thank you so much, Jackie. We're going to finish up. Have you got any shout outs or anything more you want to
No,
add?
just to say thank you, especially to Jackie and Gina for hosting our first 20 minutes of the show. You've done a great job, and to all our other guests today as well. It's been brilliant. And we hope you come back tomorrow for Social Prescribing Day.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It's it's Women's History Month as well.
Yeah.
So any opportunities, have a look. There are incredible books. There's incredible history talking about all the injustices that have happened for millennia and more, for us to understand and learn, for us to be able to move forward and absolutely, collectively break the bias. This is Chaos TV, and we'll see you tomorrow.